I never imagined my final scene would play out on this bridge. My fingers trembled against the cold metal railing, knuckles white from gripping too hard, and below me the river called with a promise of peace I'd never found in life. The water churned dark and endless, reflecting nothing but void, exactly how I felt inside. The wind bit through my thin shirt, but I barely registered the cold anymore. Nothing seemed to matter. Not the pain, not the betrayal, not the emptiness that had swallowed me whole over the past 3 weeks. I leaned forward slightly, testing my resolve, when suddenly a hand clamped around my wrist with startling strength. "Don't jump." The voice cut through the fog in my mind, deep, resonant, saturated with alpha pheromones but lacking any trace of dominance or command. Instead, there was something raw in those 2 words. Fear. Desperation. I turned my head slowly, almost annoyed at the interruption, and found myself staring into storm-gray eyes that looked at me like I was something precious about to be lost. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair slightly disheveled by the wind. Stubble shadowed his jaw, and there were lines around his eyes that spoke of hard work and harder nights. Behind him stood a small child, maybe 4 years old, clutching the man's pants with tiny fists, blue eyes wide and brimming with tears. "Please," the alpha said again, his voice cracking slightly. "I don't know what you're going through, but my son is watching." The child. I looked at that innocent face, those terrified eyes, and something inside me fractured differently than before. What was I doing? What kind of monster traumatizes a child just to escape his own demons? The alpha, Bennett, I would learn later, pulled me away from the railing, with gentle but unyielding force. My legs gave out and I collapsed onto the concrete walkway, body shaking with sobs I didn't even realize I'd been holding back. My heat scent leaked out stronger now, suppressants having run dry 2 days ago, marking me as vulnerable in ways I couldn't control. Bennett immediately shrugged off his jacket and draped it over my shoulders, creating a barrier between my scent and the world. The fabric smelled like pine and something earthier, grounding, protecting. "You're in preheat," he observed quietly, crouching to my level. "Where's your pack? Your alpha?" The question should have been routine, but it hit like a physical blow. I laughed, a hollow, broken sound that didn't resemble anything joyful. "I don't have anyone." His expression shifted through several emotions too quickly to name. Anger, sorrow, confusion, maybe all of them at once. His jaw tightened, and I saw his hands ball into fists before deliberately relaxing them. "Then you're coming with me," Bennett stated firmly. "I'm not leaving an unbonded Omega alone in this condition. It's not safe." I wanted to protest, to tell him I wasn't his problem, that he should just let me disappear. But his alpha command, subtle, wrapped in genuine concern rather than domination, made the words die in my throat. His son approached me cautiously, small hand extended like a lifeline. "Papa said you need help," the boy announced with the straightforward honesty only children possess. "I'm Kai. What's your name?" "Joseph," I whispered, surprised by my own voice. I hadn't spoken in 3 days. Bennett helped me to my feet, supporting most of my weight as we walked to his car, an older sedan with car seats in the back and evidence of a lived-in life. During the drive he remained silent, but I noticed his jaw working constantly, like he was fighting some internal battle with himself. When we arrived at his apartment, I was struck by how different it was from what I'd expected. No luxurious penthouse, no statement of wealth or status, just a modest 2-bedroom with toys scattered across the living room floor, a drawing board propped against one wall, and a half-made sandwich abandoned on the kitchen counter. This was a home, real and imperfect. "You'll stay in the guest room," Bennett explained, already moving to show me. "There are heat suppressants in the bathroom cabinet. I'll keep my distance, I promise." But distance became impossible that night. Around midnight, my heat intensified with brutal suddenness. I tried to lock myself in, tried to muffle the sounds, tried to maintain some shred of dignity. My Omega instincts screamed for connection, for comfort, for an alpha's presence, but I fought against them with everything I had left. Then I heard him outside the door. Bennett's breathing was heavy, labored, and I could feel the tension radiating through the wall between us. His alpha biology responded to my distress whether he wanted it to or not. "Joseph," he said, voice strained with the effort of control. "I'm not going to touch you, but your scent, it's affecting me. I need you to know I'm here. You're not alone." "I know," I choked out between tears. I'm sorry. Please, just go. You shouldn't have to deal with this. But he didn't leave. I heard him settle against the door, heard the soft scrape of fabric as he positioned himself to wait out the night. He stayed there for hours, a silent guardian keeping watch over someone he'd met only hours before. When morning light finally crept through the window, I emerged from the room exhausted and ashamed. Kai was sitting on my bed, his small fingers resting on my hand with unexpected gentleness. Papa said you were sad, Kai told me matter-of-factly. But I drawed you this. He handed me a piece of paper covered in crayon strokes. 3 stick figures holding hands. 1 tall alpha, 1 omega, and between them a small child with a huge smile. This is us now, Kai declared with the absolute certainty of childhood. You're part of my family. Tears spilled down my cheeks before I could stop them. This child, this innocent little boy who didn't even know me, had just offered what I'd been searching for my entire life. Belonging. Bennett appeared in the doorway holding 2 coffee mugs, dark circles under his eyes testament to his sleepless night. He looked tired, rumpled, and somehow more human than any alpha I'd ever known. Our eyes met across the room, and something unspoken passed between us, an acknowledgement that whatever had started on that bridge wasn't finished yet. We need to talk, he said simply. I nodded, unable to find words adequate for the moment. Kai bounced off the bed and ran to his father, wrapping small arms around his leg. As I watched them together, this alpha who'd saved me and the child who'd already claimed me, I realized with startling clarity that my life would never be the same. I'd stood on that bridge ready to end everything. And instead I'd found something I'd stopped believing existed. Hope. Morning sunlight filtered through the kitchen window as I sat at Bennett's small dining table, wrapped in his oversized hoodie that still carried traces of his comforting scent. My heat had finally begun to recede, leaving behind bone-deep exhaustion and a vulnerability I couldn't quite shake. Bennett placed a cup of green tea in front of me before settling into the chair across, his presence patient and expectant. Joseph, he began carefully, no pressure in his tone, just authentic concern. I need to understand what happened. No pack, no bond mark, no suppressants. How did you end up on that bridge? I stared into my tea, watching steam curl upward while searching for words that had remained buried for weeks. Bennett's eyes held no judgments, only steady patience that made confession feel possible rather than terrifying. I was engaged, I finally admitted, my voice barely above a whisper, to an alpha named Damien. We were supposed to bond next month. Bennett remained silent, giving me space to continue at my own pace. His entire body language communicated attention without invasion, care without suffocation. But I discovered he was already bonded. I continued, feeling buried emotions begin to surface. To someone else. A beta. He was using me for breeding purposes only. When I confronted him about the lies, he called me defective because my heat cycles are irregular. Then he cut me off completely. No money, no access to suppressants. Nothing. Bennett's fist clenched on the table. I watched his jaw tighten, saw the flash of protective anger cross his features before he consciously controlled it. He's a coward, Bennett stated with absolute conviction. And you're not defective. Do you hear me? You're not. I looked up, startled by the certainty in his voice. Nobody had ever defended me so immediately, so completely. Kai was coloring at the kitchen counter, seemingly absorbed in his artwork, but probably absorbing more than we realized. Bennett lowered his voice further. Joseph, I won't force you into anything, he said, leaning forward slightly. But if you have nowhere to go, stay here. Just until you figure things out. No strings attached, no expectations. Why? I asked, genuinely bewildered. You don't even know me. Bennett took a long breath, seeming to weigh how much to reveal. Because I understand abandonment. Kai's mom left us when he was only 6 months old. She didn't want the burden of a child. Since then, it's been just the 2 of us. His confession rendered me speechless. Bennett wasn't just a single father. He was also someone who'd been broken and rebuilt himself, transforming pain into strength. I don't want your pity, I said defensively. It's not pity, Bennett replied firmly, holding my gaze. It's basic decency, something you should have received a long time ago. Before I could respond, Kai suddenly appeared at my side, his small warm fingers wrapping around my cold hand. Joseph, do you like dinosaurs? Papa bought me a T-Rex yesterday. I looked at his innocent, excited face and felt something inside me lighten for the first time in weeks. I love dinosaurs. Kai's enthusiastic jump made Bennett smile, a soft expression that transformed his entire face. The boy dragged me toward his room to show off his collection, and I caught Bennett watching us with something almost like gratitude in his eyes. The following days settled into an unexpected rhythm. I gradually adjusted to Bennett's household, finding comfort in its unpretentious simplicity. Bennett left early each morning for his construction job, physical labor evident in his strong arms and calloused hands. But every evening he returned home, tired yet fully present for Kai, and I began noticing something extra in his gaze when he looked at me. Concern, care, perhaps even attraction. One evening while Kai played with his toy dinosaurs, I stood at the kitchen sink washing dishes, my small way of contributing. Bennett came home covered in dust and sweat, but he stopped short when he saw me. "You don't have to do that," he said. "I want to," I replied. "You've done so much for me. This is the least I can offer." He moved closer and I noticed his scent more clearly. Pine mixed with something earthier, inherently comforting. "Joseph, you don't have to earn your place here. You're not a guest. You're safe. That's what matters." His sincerity made my chest tighten with emotion I couldn't quite name. Later that night, after Kai had fallen asleep, I found Bennett on the balcony holding a cigarette. I approached quietly, drawn by some invisible thread I didn't fully understand yet. "You smoke?" I asked. "Only when I'm stressed," he answered, exhaling smoke into the night air. "There was a close call at work today. A beam nearly fell." My breath caught. "Are you okay?" He turned to face me, expression unreadable but somehow vulnerable. "I'm fine. But what about you?" "Couldn't sleep. Nightmares," I admitted. "About Damien. About everything that happened." Bennett crushed his cigarette and moved closer, maintaining respectful distance while still being present. His alpha scent enveloped me, overwhelming yet comforting simultaneously. "Joseph," he said softly, "I can't promise your past will disappear, but I can promise that while you're here, you'll feel safe. I'll make sure of it." His words settled into my chest, warm and reassuring. I wanted desperately to believe him, but trust had become such a difficult concept. "Bennett," I began hesitantly, "what if I'm too broken to fix?" He lifted my chin gently, moonlight casting shadows across his face. "Then I'll help you gather the pieces. One at a time. No rush. No pressure." That night marked the first time in weeks I actually slept. Peacefully, dreamlessly, safely. But morning shattered that fragile peace. I woke and remembered the old phone I'd hidden in the drawer. The one I'd kept powered on out of some misguided hope or lingering attachment. I finally gathered courage to check it, and my blood turned to ice. "Damien, I know where you are, Joseph. You can't hide forever. We have unfinished business." My hand trembled so violently the phone nearly slipped from my grasp. He'd found me. After everything, after the bridge, after finding sanctuary with Bennett and Kai, Damien had tracked me down, and now Bennett and Kai were in danger because of me. I read the message repeatedly, hoping the words would somehow change or disappear. They didn't. Damien had located me, and panic seized my chest with crushing force. I stumbled toward the bathroom, nausea overwhelming my senses. My breathing became shallow and rapid, a panic attack building momentum. Bennett knocked on the door, concern evident in his voice. "Joseph, are you okay?" I couldn't answer. I just opened the door and thrust the phone toward him with shaking hands. He read the message and his entire body went rigid. Alpha protective instincts activating instantly. He gripped my shoulder, grounding me physically. "Breathe, Joseph, breathe with me. In, out, in, out." I followed his breathing pattern until the panic gradually subsided enough for rational thought to return. "I'm taking Kai to a friend's place," Bennett decided immediately. "Then we're handling this situation together." "No," I protested quickly. "Bennett, you don't understand. Damien is dangerous. If he comes here, then he'll have to go through me," Bennett interrupted firmly. Zero doubt in his voice. "Joseph, I won't let you face this alone. Not anymore." He drove Kai to his trusted friend Ryan, a tall, muscular beta who worked in tech security. Then Bennett brought me back to the apartment and we formulated a plan. "We need to understand how he located you," Bennett said, already working on his laptop. Did you give anyone your location? Nobody. I insisted. I haven't even used this phone. I just kept it powered on in case. Location services, Bennett realized. If you previously shared any apps with him, he could still be tracking your device. He immediately performed a factory reset and installed a new SIM card. He can't trace you now, but if he's already found the address, we need to be prepared. Bennett called Ryan back, and together they installed security cameras around the apartment. They established emergency contacts and planned escape routes. Watching them work with such focused efficiency made me feel simultaneously protected and guilty. This feels excessive, I said, guilt crushing my chest. I'm complicating your entire life. Stop, Bennett interrupted, cupping my face and forcing eye contact. You're not the problem. Damien is the problem. And problems have solutions. His confidence proved infectious. For the first time, I didn't feel completely alone in this nightmare. That evening, after everything was secured, Bennett sat me down on the couch with coffee. We should discuss next steps. What do you mean? Legally, he explained. If Damien continues harassment, we can file for a restraining order, but that requires officially documenting your situation. Police statements, medical records, everything. My chest constricted. I don't know if I can do that. Admitting my humiliation publicly to everyone, Bennett took my hand, his thumb drawing gentle circles on my knuckles. You're stronger than you realize, Joseph. You've already survived so much. This is just the next step, and I'll be there with you. Every single step. I looked into his honest, caring eyes and found small sparks of hope. Okay, I'll do it. The next day we went to the police station. Giving my statement proved emotionally draining, reliving every detail of Damien's manipulation, abandonment, and threats. But Bennett sat beside me throughout, a silent pillar of support that kept me from falling apart. The officer, a middle-aged beta woman named Sandra, was sympathetic. We'll file this under harassment and potential stalking. With your text evidence, restraining order approval chances are quite high. Relief washed over me, but then Sandra added something else. However, she continued cautiously, restraining orders are just paper. If he's truly determined, you need to remain vigilant. Walking back to the car, Bennett took my hand, the first time he'd done so publicly, openly. Whatever happens, Joseph, you're not alone. But as we entered our apartment building's parking lot, my instincts screamed warning. Something felt wrong. An expensive black sedan sat parked directly in front of our building. Tinted windows, engine running. Bennett noticed too. Get behind me. The car door suddenly opened and Damien emerged, dressed in his expensive suit with that arrogant smirk I remembered so well. His eyes locked onto me with possessive fury. Joseph, he said, speaking as if we were still engaged. We need to talk. Right now. Bennett immediately positioned himself between us. Body language purely protective. He doesn't owe you anything. Leave immediately. Damien sized Bennett up with a condescending laugh. And who are you? His new charity case provider? I'm someone who actually respects him, Bennett replied calmly, though his alpha pheromones released in clear warning. Damien's expression darkened. Look, construction worker, I don't know what sob story he fed you, but Joseph is my omega. We have a pre-bond contract, which you violated, Bennett interrupted, voice dangerously calm, by already being bonded to someone else. Your contract is void, legally and morally. Damien looked shocked. How did you? Background check. Public records. Your beta partner's bond registration. All public information if someone bothers looking. Damien's confident mask began cracking. You don't know who you're messing with. I know exactly who I'm dealing with, Bennett stated, stepping forward slightly with clear alpha dominance. A coward who manipulates vulnerable omegas because real relationships require actual effort. Damien's fists clenched, but Bennett's unwavering presence made him hesitate. Joseph, Damien addressed me directly, trying to bypass Bennett. If you don't come with me right now, I'll destroy your life. Blacklist every pharmacy. Ruin every job reference. You'll have nothing. My breath caught. He actually possessed the connections to make good on those threats. But Bennett did something unexpected. He won't need any of that, Bennett declared firmly. I'll provide whatever he needs. Suppressants, medical care, housing, legal support, everything. And your threats? That's documented harassment. Already with the police. Damien's face flushed red with humiliation. This isn't over, Damien threatened. It is. Bennett replied firmly. And if you contact either Joseph or me again, legal action will be immediate. The restraining order process is already underway. Now leave before I call the police. Damien shot one last hateful look before retreating to his car and speeding away. Once he was gone, my legs gave out. Bennett caught me immediately. Strong arms providing stability. I've got you, he whispered. You're safe, but my body shook with adrenaline crash. Bennett guided me inside and onto the couch. Joseph. Breathe. You're okay. He's gone. I finally regained control and looked at Bennett. This alpha who'd just stood against Damien for me. Thank you, I whispered through tears. Nobody has ever— You don't have to thank me, Bennett said softly, wiping my tears gently. Protecting you isn't a burden. It's a privilege. His words melted something inside my chest. When Kai returned with Ryan later, he noticed my red eyes. Joseph, why were you crying? Kai asked innocently. Just happy tears, I lied. Not wanting him to worry. Kai hugged me. Papa says happy tears are okay. Bennett gave me a meaningful look, silently communicating that we were in this together. For the first time, I actually believed it. But the next morning, I found a legal envelope slipped under our door. Bennett opened it, his face turning grim. What is it? I asked nervously. Legal notice, he said, jaw tight. Damien is suing me for alienation of affection and unlawful omega harboring. My world shattered again. Damien wasn't giving up. And now he was targeting Bennett directly. The legal notice trembled in my hands as I struggled to process the words printed across the page. Unlawful omega harboring. The phrase turned my stomach as if I were some object that could be illegally possessed. Rage and helplessness boiled simultaneously inside my chest, each emotion fighting for dominance. Bennett took the document from me and placed it carefully on the side table before crouching to my eye level. Joseph, listen carefully. This is legal nonsense that won't hold up in any courtroom. Damien is just trying to intimidate us, but he's dragging you into this mess, I said, guilt crushing down on me like a physical weight. Your reputation, your job, Kai, everything you've built could be destroyed because of me. Kai is safe, Bennett stated firmly, his voice leaving no room for argument. My reputation is built on honesty and hard work, not on whatever lies some bitter alpha decides to spread. And you? You're not the cause of this. Damien's toxicity is his own responsibility. I wanted desperately to believe him, but fear had wrapped itself around my throat, making it difficult to breathe properly. Bennett pulled out his phone and dialed a number. Nora. Yes. It's Bennett. I need your help with a legal situation. Personal matter. Several hours later, a sharp, professional beta woman arrived at our apartment. Nora Bennett. No relation, she joked immediately upon introduction. She specialized in omega rights cases and carried an excellent reputation throughout the city. After listening to our entire situation, Nora made several notes in her pad. Let me be absolutely clear. This lawsuit is frivolous at best, malicious at worst. Alienation of affection requires proof that Bennett deliberately sabotaged your relationship with Damien. But your relationship was already over, and legally invalid since Damien was already bonded when he signed the contract. So the case will automatically be dismissed? I asked, hope flickering weakly in my chest. Most likely, Nora confirmed. But we still have to appear in court. You'll need to give testimony, and Damien's lawyer, Magnus Reed, he plays dirty. Emotional manipulation, character assassination, everything in his arsenal. My stomach dropped at her words. However, Nora continued, looking directly at me, if you remain honest and consistent and we present proper documentation, we'll win. I've beaten Magnus before. Bennett squeezed my hand reassuringly. We'll face this together. I won't abandon you now. The next 2 weeks passed in intense preparation. Nora interviewed me extensively, every detail about my relationship with Damien. Timelines, saved messages, everything. We gathered medical records documenting my irregular heat cycles and malnutrition, direct results of Damien's neglect and abuse. Bennett also prepared his testimony about finding me on the bridge, my condition and his purely humanitarian motivations for helping me. We had to partially explain the situation to Kai, an age-appropriate version about Joseph needing legal help. Kai simply nodded and said, good. Joseph is family. His innocent acceptance became a source of strength for me. The court date finally arrived. I wore a simple navy blue shirt and black pants. Nora's advice was professional but not flashy. Damien, predictably, wore a designer suit and brought his beta partner Melissa openly as if his double life wasn't a scandal at all. When we entered the courtroom, whispers erupted immediately. An unbonded Omega fighting against his ex-alpha in court. Rare enough to draw attention. I felt uncomfortable under the scrutiny, but Bennett's solid, unwavering presence beside me kept me grounded. The judge was a stern, older alpha, Judge Harrison Cole. He maintained strict order as proceedings began. Magnus Reed, tall, intimidating, impeccably dressed, delivered his opening statement. Your Honor, my client, Damien Castellano, entered a legally binding pre-bond contract with Mr. Joseph Ashford. This contract was violated when Mr. Ashford abandoned the arrangement without notice and moved in with another alpha, Mr. Bennett Rivers, who knowingly interfered. Objection. Nora interrupted sharply. The pre-bond contract was void from inception due to fraudulent misrepresentation. Mr. Castellano was already bonded to another individual when signing the contract, which violates Omega Protection Act Section 7, subsection. Judge Cole looked at Damien with raised eyebrows. Mr. Castellano, is this accurate? Are you currently bonded to someone else? Damien stammered, clearly uncomfortable. Why, Your Honor, that bond was arranged by my family. It's not a love bond. It was purely transactional. The law makes no distinction between love bonds and arranged bonds. Mr. Castellano, Judge Cole said coldly, a bond is a bond. If you were bonded when signing this contract, the contract is void. Period. Magnus quickly tried to recover. Your Honor, even if the contract is void, Mr. Ashford still required alpha supervision and care. He is unstable. We have evidence. He produced a tablet and played CCTV footage on the screen. The bridge scene. Me standing on the railing, ready to jump. Gasps and murmurs filled the courtroom. My face burned with humiliation. Mr. Ashford attempted suicide. Magnus stated dramatically. He clearly needs supervision, not independence. Mr. Rivers taking him in was reckless. Objection. Nora interrupted loudly. This is victim blaming at its absolute worst. Mr. Ashford's mental health crisis was a direct result of the defendant's abuse and abandonment. Judge Cole looked sternly at Magnus. Counselor, I will not tolerate victim blaming in my courtroom. Proceed with extreme care. Magnus backed off slightly, but tried another angle. Your Honor, we also question Mr. Rivers' motivations. A single alpha taking in a vulnerable, unbonded Omega in heat. The optics are questionable. Bennett's jaw tightened, but he remained composed. Objection, Nora stated firmly. Mr. Rivers' actions were purely humanitarian. He provided shelter, medical care, and protection without any expectation of bonding or compensation. His character is not on trial here. Judge Cole nodded. Sustained. Mr. Reed, focus on relevant facts only. Magnus grudgingly moved forward, though his attempted damage was clear. Then came my testimony. I approached the stand shaking slightly. Nora gave me a reassuring nod. Mr. Ashford, Nora began gently, can you describe your relationship with Damien Castellano? I took a deep breath and began. We met 2 years ago. He seemed charming initially, very attentive. He proposed after 6 months, and I was extremely happy. But as our bonding date approached, things changed drastically. Changed how specifically? He became controlling. He criticized my heat cycle constantly, calling me defective. Then I accidentally discovered he was already bonded. When I confronted him, he abandoned me completely. No money, no suppressants, nothing. And what happened afterward? I lost all hope, I admitted honestly, tears forming. I felt worthless. Defective, exactly as Damien claimed. That's why I went to the bridge. I didn't want to continue living. The courtroom fell completely silent. But then Bennett found you, Nora prompted softly. Yes, I said, looking at Bennett with gratitude flooding my eyes. He pulled me back, literally and figuratively. He gave me shelter, medical care, and most importantly, dignity. He treated me like a human being, not property. Magnus stood for cross-examination. Mr. Ashford, isn't it possible you manipulated Mr. Rivers, playing the vulnerable Omega to gain sympathy? My jaw dropped. Nora immediately objected. But Magnus continued. You moved into his home, became close to his son, created emotional dependency. Rather convenient, isn't it? That's absolutely not what happened. I stated firmly, anger giving me strength. I just wanted to survive. Bennett helped because he's a decent person, unlike your client. Judge Cole gave Magnus a warning look. Counselor, you're on extremely thin ice. Magnus backed off immediately. Then Bennett gave his testimony, confident and honest throughout. Nora asked basic questions about how he found me, why he helped, what his intentions were. Bennett explained calmly. I was walking with Kai when I saw Joseph. Any decent person would have done exactly what I did. He needed help. I provided it. Simple as that. Did you have any ulterior motives? Nora asked directly. None whatsoever. Bennett replied firmly. I'm a single father. My priority is Kai, but I cannot watch anyone suffer, especially not someone who's endured what Joseph has. Magnus cross-examined Bennett, attempting to find weaknesses. Mr. Rivers, you're a construction worker, not wealthy. Yet you took on the financial burden of an Omega in heat. Why? Because it was the right thing to do, Bennett answered simply. Or because you wanted to bond with an Omega without usual courtship expenses? Magnus insinuated. No, Bennett stated firmly. Joseph and I are friends. If something develops in the future, it will be mutual, consensual, and respectful. Not transactional. Murmurs of approval rippled through the courtroom. Judge Cole finally intervened. I've heard sufficient evidence. This case is clearly frivolous. The pre-bond contract is void due to fraud. Mr. Rivers' actions were humanitarian. Case dismissed. The gavel banged decisively. Relief washed over me completely. We had won. Actually won. Damien's face flushed red with humiliation. He started to storm out, but Judge Cole stopped him. Mr. Castellano, the judge said sternly, I'm issuing a restraining order. You must stay at least 500 feet away from Mr. Ashford at all times. Violation will result in immediate arrest. Additionally, you're ordered to pay $50,000 in emotional damages. Damien looked furious but remained silent. Outside the courthouse, Bennett hugged me tightly. It's finally over. You're free. I cried into his chest, years of accumulated pain finally releasing. I can't believe it's real. Believe it, Bennett whispered. And now we can move forward properly. Nora congratulated us and discussed her fees, surprisingly reasonable. Consider the rest pro bono, she smiled. This case truly mattered to me. When we reached the parking lot, Bennett suddenly stopped and turned toward me. Joseph, I want to ask you something officially. My heartbeat accelerated rapidly. Bennett pulled a small velvet box from his jacket pocket. Panic surged through me, bonding ring already. But when he opened the box, I saw a simple silver bracelet with delicate charms. A small bridge where we met, a dinosaur representing Kai, and a tiny heart. This is a courting gift, Bennett explained, his voice slightly nervous. Traditionally, an alpha courts an Omega with meaningful gifts. I'm not rushing you toward bonding. But Joseph, will you let me court you properly? Tears filled my eyes. Happy tears this time. Yes. Absolutely yes. Bennett gently fastened the bracelet around my wrist, his fingers warm against my skin. In that moment, the world felt perfect. But when we sat in the car and Bennett checked his phone, his expression darkened considerably. What's wrong? I asked. He turned the phone toward me. An unknown number had sent a message. Unknown, court may be over, but this isn't. Watch your back, Bennett. Damien. He still wasn't finished with us. Bennett placed his phone on silent mode and looked at me with forced calmness masking his expression. Joseph, don't panic. This is just an empty threat. Damien can't do anything legally now. But I could see the hidden tension in his eyes. He was worried too, just trying to prevent me from panicking. We should inform Nora, I suggested immediately. Already planning to, Bennett said, dialing as he spoke. He explained the situation to Nora, and she agreed that informing the police was absolutely necessary. The next few days passed with strange normalcy on the surface. Bennett went to work. I spent time with Kai at home, helping with cooking and cleaning, but both our minds remained on high alert. Every unknown car, every unexpected sound made us jump slightly. Bennett tightened security measures further. Ryan installed additional cameras and upgraded the emergency panic button system. Kai was also gently instructed that if any stranger ever approached him, he should immediately tell Pop, "Am I in danger?" Kai asked innocently one night, as I tucked him into bed. "No, sweetie," I reassured him, ruffling his soft hair gently. "Your papa just wants to make absolutely sure everyone stays super safe. Like superheroes do." Kai's eyes lit up with excitement. "Is Papa a superhero?" "The very best one," I smiled genuinely. "But even superheroes have vulnerabilities." One night, Bennett was returning home from a late shift overtime at the construction site. I was home with Kai, cleaning up after dinner when Bennett called. "Joseph, I'll be slightly late. Traffic is heavy." "Okay, drive safely," I replied. But an hour passed and Bennett still hadn't arrived. I started worrying. He always provided updates if delays occurred. Then Ryan called, panic evident in his voice. "Joseph, Bennett's been in an accident. Hospital. Get there now." My heart stopped completely. I immediately prepared Kai, called Ryan back to babysit, and rushed to the hospital. Entering the emergency room, the antiseptic smell and harsh fluorescent lights made me nauseous. A nurse directed me toward Bennett's room. When I entered, I saw Bennett bruised, bandaged, but conscious. Relief and fear exploded simultaneously inside me. "Bennett," I said through tears, approaching his bedside. "What happened?" "Accident," he said slowly, pain evident in his voice. "Someone deliberately hit my car. Hit and run." My blood turned cold. "Damien." "Probably," Bennett admitted. "Police are investigating. But Joseph, I need you to promise me something important. Anything at all. If something happens to me," Bennett said seriously, gripping my hand, "take care of Kai, please. He loves you deeply, and I trust you completely." "Nothing's going to happen to you," I stated firmly, tears flowing freely. "We'll handle this situation together. Remember? Together." Bennett managed a weak smile. The doctor came in and explained that Bennett had fractured ribs and a concussion, but nothing life-threatening. Recovery would take several weeks. I stayed at the hospital with him while Ryan temporarily cared for Kai. Sitting beside Bennett all night, I finally realized something profound. I felt much more than gratitude toward him. This was love. Real love. The next morning, police arrived for their investigation. They confirmed the accident was deliberate. CCTV footage clearly showed a black sedan ramming Bennett's car. The license plate was fake, but the car model matched Damien's known vehicles. "We're building a solid case," the detective informed us. "If we find concrete evidence, we can arrest him for attempted assaults." 2 days later, Bennett was discharged from the hospital. I brought him home carefully. Kai was emotionally overwhelmed seeing his papa injured. "Papa, does it hurt badly?" Kai asked softly, sitting beside Bennett's bed. "A little, buddy," Bennett answered honestly. "But having you and Joseph here means I'll heal quickly." Kai looked at me seriously. "Joseph, will you stay with us forever?" My throat tightened with emotion. "As long as you both want me here." "Forever then," Kai stated matter-of-factly. Bennett looked at me with swimming emotion in his eyes. Gratitude, affection, something even deeper. Over the following weeks, I cared for Bennett continuously. Medicine schedules, meals, physical therapy exercises, everything. Kai helped too, creating drawings to make Papa feel better. Bennett recovered slowly and the closeness between us deepened naturally. Small moments, shared glances, gentle touches, late-night conversations after Kai slept. One night, while Bennett rested on the couch and I adjusted his blanket, he suddenly spoke. "Joseph." "Wait." I paused. "Thank you," he said softly, "for everything. You've cared for Kai and me so completely. I don't know how to repay such kindness." "You don't need to," I said, sitting beside him. "You both accepted me when nobody else would. This is the least I can do." Bennett took my hand, his thumb gently circling my palm. "Joseph, I need to be completely honest with you about something." My heart began racing. "I'm falling in love with you," Bennett admitted, vulnerable and honest. "Maybe it's too soon, or inappropriate considering our circumstances, but I can't hide it anymore. You came into our lives and everything changed. Better change." Tears filled my eyes. "Bennett, I feel the same way. I love you too." For the first time, properly, he cupped my face and slowly, gently, we shared our first real kiss. Soft, tender, filled with promise and possibility. When we separated, we were both smiling, but happiness never lasts long enough. The next day, police called. They had arrested Damien, solid evidence for the hit and run, traffic camera footage and a witness who identified Damien driving. He's in custody, the detective informed us. Bail hearing tomorrow. We hoped this would finally end everything, but at the bail hearing, Magnus Reed worked his magic. Damien received bail, expensive, but granted. This is temporary, Nora assured us. There will definitely be a trial. Conviction chances are extremely high. But Damien was out. Free again. That night, Bennett doubled security measures. Ryan remained constantly on call. We stayed hyper-vigilant, but then came silence. No messages, no threats, no sightings. Maybe he's finally given up, I suggested hopefully. Bennett looked uncertain. Or he's planning something else entirely. 2 weeks of peace passed. Bennett recovered almost fully. Kai was happy at school, openly calling me his other papa. Bennett continued courting me officially. Proper dates, meaningful conversations, shared dreams. Our bond deepened naturally. One evening, with Kai at Ryan's for a sleepover, Bennett took me to the terrace. City lights twinkled below and the air felt crisp. Joseph, Bennett said, turning toward me. I want to ask you something official. He pulled out a small velvet box different from the courting bracelet. My breath caught. I know this has been fast, chaotic, unpredictable, Bennett said, opening the box to reveal a simple but elegant bonding ring. But when I'm with you, everything feels right. You've brought stability and warmth into my life. Kai loves you deeply, and I cannot imagine my life without you anymore. Tears flowed down my cheeks. Joseph Ashford, Bennett said formally. Will you bond with me? Will you be my Omega? My partner, Kai's other parent? Officially? I nodded shakily. Yes. 1,000 times yes. Bennett slipped the ring on. Perfect fit. Then we kissed passionately, full of love and promise. But when we returned to the apartment, the door stood slightly ajar. We hadn't left it open. Bennett immediately positioned me behind him. Entering alert mode. Stay behind me. We entered slowly. The living room was completely ransacked, furniture overturned, cushions sliced open, walls spray painted with a message. You can't have what's mine. My body froze. Damien had been here. Inside our home. Bennett immediately called the police. But when we checked further, sounds came from the kitchen. Bennett protected me in a corner and cautiously approached the kitchen. There stood Damien, holding a knife. Finally, Damien said venomously, eyes manic. Time to end this. Damien's figure in the kitchen's dim light appeared terrifying. Disheveled, unhinged, holding the knife casually as if it were some ordinary tool. His eyes were bloodshot, probably from sleepless nights or drugs or both. This wasn't the polished, confident alpha I once knew. This was someone else entirely. Desperate and extremely dangerous. Bennett immediately shielded me completely with his body, tense and protective. Damien, put the knife down. Police are already on their way. You're only making your situation worse. Damien laughed, a chilling, hollow sound that sent shivers down my spine. Situation worse? Bennett, my life is already destroyed. Business bankrupt, reputation ruined, and all because of this defective Omega who bound to me. I never belonged to you. I suddenly shouted from behind Bennett. Fear transformed into rage. You tried to use me, manipulate me. I'm not property. Damien's eyes snapped toward me, and he took a threatening step forward. You're exactly what I say you are. And if I can't have you, then nobody will. He raised the knife threateningly. Bennett reacted without thinking. He lunged toward Damien, grabbing his wrist to deflect the knife away from me. They struggled violently, crashing into furniture. Joseph, get out, now, Bennett shouted. But I froze, terror paralyzing every muscle. Damien drove his elbow into Bennett's already injured ribs, and Bennett grunted in pain, his grip loosening momentarily. Damien seized the advantage and raised the knife again, this time targeting Bennett directly. No! I screamed and did something I never imagined myself capable of. I grabbed a heavy frying pan from the kitchen counter and struck Damien's head. A loud thud echoed. Damien staggered and collapsed onto the floor, unconscious. Complete silence. Bennett looked at me with heavy breaths, shock and relief both visible in his eyes. Joseph, are you all right? I was trembling, the pan still gripped in my hands. I didn't kill him, did I? Bennett checked Damien's pulse quickly. No, he's alive. Just unconscious. Sirens wailed outside. Police had finally arrived. The next few hours passed in a blur. Police arrested Damien, this time with no possibility of bail. Breaking and entering, assault with a deadly weapon, attempted murder. The charges were extremely serious. EMTs checked Bennett and me both, assessing for trauma. Ryan and Nora both arrived quickly. Nora immediately arranged legal protection. This time, Damien won't be getting out of jail. Not for a very long time. Ryan secured the apartment and arranged a cleaning crew for the vandalism. When everyone finally left and Bennett and I were alone, Kai safely with Ryan, we collapsed onto the couch, exhausted both physically and emotionally. I can't believe it's actually over, I whispered. Bennett pulled me into his arms, careful despite his injuries. It's over. You're safe. We're safe. I cried into his chest, relief, fear, trauma all releasing simultaneously. Bennett kissed the top of my head, protective and loving. Joseph, he said softly, what you did tonight saved my life. You saved mine first, I replied, gripping his shirt tightly. We're even now, he laughed gently. That night we slept together, platonically but intimately, wrapped in comfort and safety. Over the following weeks, life gradually shifted toward normalcy. Damien's trial proceeded swiftly. The evidence was overwhelming. He was convicted and received a 15-year sentence. Magnus Reed couldn't perform any miracles this time. In the courtroom when the verdict was announced, I felt genuine relief. Real deep relief. Damien was permanently removed from my life. Bennett and I officially began planning our bonding ceremony. Nothing elaborate, just a simple, intimate ceremony with close friends and family. Kai was extremely excited. Am I going to have two papas officially? He asked repeatedly. Yes, buddy. Bennett confirmed, picking Kai up. Joseph will officially become your other papa. Kai cheered and hugged me tightly. The bonding ceremony occurred on a sunny Saturday afternoon. Ryan and Nora served as witnesses, along with a small officiator, who specialized in omega-friendly ceremonies. I wore a simple white shirt and gray pants. Bennett looked handsome in a charcoal suit, though clearly nervous. When we exchanged vows, tears filled both our eyes. Joseph, Bennett said, holding my hand, you taught me how to live life again. You gave Kai a second parent, and you gave me love that I actually deserve. I promise to always care for you, respect you, and love you. Unconditionally. I could barely speak. Bennett, you lifted me up when I had fallen completely. You showed me that love isn't control or manipulation. It's safety, respect, and true partnership. I promise to always stay with you and Kai. Always. The bonding bite was ceremonial, gentle and meaningful. When Bennett bit my neck, officially creating the mark, I felt completion more than pain. I marked him as well. Reciprocal bonding. Rare but beautiful. When we separated, officially bonded, Kai clapped enthusiastically. Yay! Now you're stuck together forever. Everyone laughed warmly. The reception was simple: cake, music, and close friends celebrating. Kai constantly stayed between us, equally demanding attention from both parents. Best day ever, Kai declared. Frosting smeared across his face. Bennett and I looked at each other, smiling. Best day ever, we both echoed. 6 months later, life settled into a beautiful routine. I started a part-time job at the local library, which offered flexibility and allowed me to work around Kai's schedule. Bennett's construction business expanded slightly. He formed a small contracting team with trusted colleagues. Kai thrived at school, proudly talking about his two papas. One evening, as we three sat at the dining table for dinner, Kai announced, "My teacher said I should draw my family for homework. Can I draw all three of us?" "Of course," I said, heartwarming. Kai pulled out paper and crayons, drawing 3 figures holding hands, a house and a shining sun. Bennett looked at me, moisture in his eyes. "We did it," he said quietly. "We actually built a real family." I squeezed his hand across the table. "Best thing we ever did." Later that night, after Kai fell asleep, Bennett and I stood on the balcony with city lights twinkling below. "Joseph," Bennett said suddenly, "do you remember when I first saw you? On the bridge?" "Yes," I said softly. "My absolute worst moments." "And my best," Bennett replied. "Because from that day forward my life changed completely. Better change." I leaned into his chest, content and safe. Mine too. We remained silent for a moment, comfortable and peaceful. Ever regret anything? Bennett asked. Not even once. I answered honestly. You? Never, Bennett stated firmly, kissing me gentle, loving, perfect. When we came inside, Kai had climbed out of bed and appeared in the living room, sleepy but smiling. Can I sleep with you both tonight? He asked innocently. Bennett and I looked at each other and smiled. Of course, buddy. We three went to the master bedroom, Kai cuddling between us. Bennett wrapped one arm around Kai and the other around me. This is perfect, Kai yawned. Yes, I whispered, tears of happiness in my eyes. This is perfect. Bennett squeezed my hand in silent agreement. Because this was our happily ever after, imperfect, messy, real. But ours. Completely ours. I never imagined that stepping off that bridge would lead me here to a loving alpha, an adorable son, and a family that genuinely loved me. But here I was. Finally home. Finally whole. And for the first time in my entire life I was truly happy.